Hello, and today we're going to be doing a presidential prediction for 2028. For the Democrats, you have Kamala Harris. She probably chooses another woman to be vice president. It's either between AOC, Gretchen Whitmer, mm, maybe Amy Klobuchar, but I don't think she wants to try another person from Minnesota. So then you have this Republicans. You have Marco Rubio. I did not choose JD Vance this time, just because I think it would be more interesting to see how Marco Rubio would do. And Glenn Youngkin, obviously the former Republican Virginia governor, he won in 2021 after Joe Biden won pretty big in Virginia. So yeah. So first let's do the safe states. Actually, we're just gonna go one state at a time. So Alaska, I'd say 14 to 15 points, depending on what type of night Marco Rubio has. Hawaii, 20 to 20.5. Um, Hawaii's been trending right off a cliff. I don't see Marco Rubio reversing that trend. So yeah. Washington, probably around 17.6%. Just because I think the areas outside of Seattle probably shift a little to the right, mainly Spokane and um, what county am I thinking of? Pierce, I'm pretty sure is the county name. I think Seattle does shift a little to the right, um, but not enough to make it under 15 points. And even if it were under 15 points, it would still be safe. So Oregon, I'd say around 13 to 13.8%. California, I'd say 18.8%, around that margin. I see Orange County flipping. Um, the what the Bay Area probably shifts to the left. Well, some of the counties, but the Los Angeles area shifts rightward, which has a lot more people. And I think that's about it for California. Nevada, I think Harris does even worse than in 2024. She probably gets around 45% of the vote, and Marco Rubio gets like 51%. So there's probably going to be a sizable third party in Nevada, which is none of these candidates. So it's probably going to be around a 6 point margin for Marco Rubio. And then you have Idaho, not much worth talking about here. Oh, I forgot in Nevada, he probably flips Washoe County. And in Idaho, Boise probably gets more red. Um, Idaho Falls probably gets more red too. I think it would be around like a 38 point margin. And then you have Utah probably like 18 to 19 points. Utah is so unpredictable, but the voter registration has not been looking good for Republicans there. Now, voter registration isn't everything, but it's 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 noticeable enough for it to be concerning to the GOP. And then you have Arizona, likely Maricopa gets a little more red, I think, and the rural areas get more red. I think um, Tucson gets a little more blue, and that's about it for Arizona. Probably like a 7.4% margin. And then you have Montana, probably around 18 to 20 point margin. Um, you can really never tell with Montana. For some reason, it's super competitive in some election cycles, and then other election cycles, it's not competitive at all. So I think Billings gets redder, but like the Missoula area, Lewis and Clark get bluer. Which Lewis and Clark isn't the city, it's the county that I'm thinking of. So yeah. Then you have Wyoming around a 46 point margin. Nothing really to talk about there. Colorado, 12.8%. Um, mm, I think Denver shifts a little to the right, so does Pueblo, but Colorado Springs counters that and moves to the left by a lot more than those areas move to the right. And then all the majority Hispanic areas probably shift more rightward, but not enough to flip it um, to becoming likely. Then you have New Mexico, I'd say 3.5% for Democrats. I think Las Cruces gets way more red. The red areas get way redder, and Sandoval, the county bordering Arizona that goes Democrat, that's lean. I think that flips. Um, Albuquerque gets closer, and that's enough to make it a 3.5% margin. Then you have North Dakota. Not much to talk about here. Probably like a 36 point margin. 37 maybe. South Dakota 30.1%. Um, Not much to talk about here either. Nebraska's third. Um, Nebraska at large go safe Republican. Nebraska at large is probably around, I'd say, 17.4%. No, not 17.4. Um, 17.6. And Nebraska's third is like 50 points. Nebraska's first is probably like 9.8%. And Nebraska's second is probably like 5.5%. So, yeah, that's about it in Nebraska. Kansas, probably like 18.6%, just because Kansas is more Republican under someone that's not Trump. Um, Marco Rubio is not connected to Trump that much, even though he works in his administration. He's not like not a lot of people associate him with Trump. He's more of an establishment kind of guy. Um, Even though that isn't really a bad thing to, per se. Um, Getting the establishment and the anti-establishment on the same side for you is probably pretty powerful. So Oklahoma, um, I'd say 35 points. I think Oklahoma City stays Republican. Um, Texas, um, probably like 15 points. The Rio Grande Valley obviously shifts rightward, and um, I think Fort Bend flips. Maybe even Harris County, which is Houston. Um, I don't see that actually happening, but it could happen. And then you have Minnesota, where I think Marco Marco Rubio does pretty well in. Now he's not really going to be strong in the Midwest, but I think most people think he wouldn't be strong in the Midwest, but I think he's going to do good there because Kamala Harris isn't even close to the Midwest. No one really likes her from the Midwest, I'm pretty sure. Gretchen Whitmer might help her in the Midwest. I just don't see her appealing to that type of voter. Um, so Minnesota probably like 0.4%. I can see Clay County flipping back. Um, all the rural counties getting redder. Minneapolis getting a little redder too. Um, the suburbs of Minneapolis getting redder. Some of them turning safer Republicans. Um, and that gives him enough to get by to win. Iowa, 14 points. Missouri, 19.8%. Arkansas, 34 points. Louisiana, 22.5%. Wisconsin, I'd say, now this is where I stop speedrunning. Wisconsin, I'd say it's like 1.6%. And that's because Milwaukee and Dane shift a little to the left, but Portage County, uh, I'm for blanking on the name, but Door County, La Crosse, Greene, Iowa, Sauk, all of those counties get redder, and and I think actually Milwaukee gets a little redder. Just not Dane. Dane gets a little bluer, but it should help. It should ultimately give Marco Rubio the win. Illinois, I'd say around 9.7%. Some of the Chicago suburbs might flip. Chicago itself will get closer. I could see some of the rural counties getting a little bluer because they're pretty much maxed out. And then you have Michigan. Um, this is the first flip for Democrats. I think Gretchen Whitmer does carry Harris to a win in Michigan, which is a good trade. Minnesota for Michigan is a pretty good trade, but because Michigan has 5 more electoral votes, but I think Macomb County doesn't really have the same appeal. Marco Rubio doesn't have the same appeal to Macomb County as like Trump does or JD Vance. I see him doing better in like Grand Rapids area, but the Detroit area kills him. And Republicans basically need Macomb County to vote for them to win, like vote for them by a big margin. So then you have Indiana. I'd say around like 21 points. Hamilton probably gets a little bluer. The surrounding suburbs around Indianapolis get bluer, but um, Gary, South Bend, Fort Wayne, um, maybe even Indianapolis itself gets a lot a little redder. Um, and then you have Kentucky 31.4, Tennessee 30.3, um, Mississippi 23.6, Alabama 30.9, Florida. Now let's stop at Florida. Florida is probably around I'd say 17-point win. I see Miami-Dade getting redder, Palm Beach flipping, the Tampa Bay area getting redder, Orlando getting redder. Um, Basically everything getting redder except for Jacksonville probably flips back to Democrats. Um, and then you have Georgia, which I think goes tilt Republican by like 0.6%. Um, I think Atlanta shifts a little to the right, like Fulton and DeKalb, Clayton, Gwinnett, but the surrounding suburbs get a lot bluer, and so does like Savannah. But it's enough to keep him. It's enough to keep it going red. Okay. Then South Carolina, 19 points. Charleston might flip. Some of the closer counties might flip, and then Columbia gets a little bluer. North Carolina, 5 points. I see Charlotte, Raleigh, Durham. They're just not going to turn out for Kamala Harris again. And then the red areas get way redder. Especially the tornado hit. I mean, hurricane hit areas that didn't really turn out in 2024. They're probably going to turn out more in droves more than they did in 2024. Um, and they might, and then um, I forgot what I was gonna say, but let's go to Ohio. Ohio flip the presidency goes to Marco Rubio now. Ohio probably like mm, I'd say 12.6% towards Republicans. I think Dayton flips, and that's about it. And West Virginia stays Republican by like 43%. Um, Maine's second, 10 points. Maine's first, like 23. And Maine at large is like 6.4%. And then New Hampshire goes to Marco Rubio by like point 6% maybe. And uh, basically he flips the county that has Manchester and Nashua in it, and he gets all the red counties get redder, and that basically guarantees a flip. And then Vermont, 30, 33%, Massachusetts, 24, Connecticut, 9.7, Rhode Island, 8.4%, New York. Let's get to New York. New York is probably around like I'd say 9.5%. New York City have obviously shifts right, especially with all the things that are going on in New York with Kathy Hochul and all that. Um, some of the counties upstate might move right. Long Island moves right, and Staten Island goes way heavily Republican, and then New Jersey, like I'd say 4.6%. Um, I'm not even gonna try. Like my voice is getting tired, so I'm just gonna speed through this. Delaware, mm, 7.8%. Maryland, 29.7. DC, I'm not even gonna do the margin. Um, Pennsylvania, I'll stay on. Pennsylvania is probably around mm, 14. No, 2.3% victory. Allentown might flip. Scranton probably flips. The rest of the counties stay about the same. And this is going to be the upset. Republicans win Virginia. Um, that might sound crazy, but um, I think Glenn Youngkin is popular in Virginia, and Abigail Spanberger is making it very hard for Democrats in Virginia. A lot of people don't like her, um, and I think it could flip. And I'm not saying it's gonna, but it could. And Nova probably gets redder. Virginia Beach definitely flips. Chesapeake flips. Some of the closer counties flip, and that gives Glenn Youngkin enough, Marco Rubio and Glenn Youngkin enough to win. And that's it for today. So I hope you had a good day, and goodbye.